Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Seville, and I am here with Laura, and we'll be having a conversation on some of the things that she's involved with. So without further ado, I'll turn the time over to Laura, and she can introduce herself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Laura Rueckert. I'm an author. I'm the author of A Dragonbird in the Fern, which is a YA fantasy book. And I'm an American, and I live in Germany, and I've lived in Germany for over 20 years now. And that kind of has something to do with the book. So that's one of the reasons I'm saying that.
Well, fantastic. What was your thought process behind these stories and in conjunction with dyslexia?
Sure. So I guess, first of all, I had kind of two things in mind when I was writing it. The first is, I had mentioned before, I'm an American and I live in Germany. And so living in Germany, I once went on a tour of a castle, and there was a woman that had lived there hundreds of years ago who was basically married in from another country. So she was married. It was an arranged marriage. She didn't speak German, and then she was kind of stuck in this castle in the middle of nowhere. And so I really wondered what her life was like. And that was one of the inspirations for A Dragonbird in the Fern. And the second one was that both of my children have been diagnosed with dyslexia. And so I had been working so much with them, first getting them tested and then helping in the therapy that they were going through. And so that was so much on my mind. That was kind of the way that it started out. And I basically started thinking I wanted to write a story about a girl who gets into an arranged marriage with someone that she doesn't speak the same language as. And I thought, one way to make it harder would be for her to have dyslexia. So my kids, like I said, have dyslexia. And my oldest son, when he was first going through it and before we had the diagnosis, he was having such a hard time. And then getting the diagnosis proved to him, it's not just you not trying. He had even said to me that he felt like he was just dumb and he was going to stay dumb no matter how hard he worked. And obviously that's not true at all. And I thought, what would it be like for a character in this book who is supposed to get married to someone that they can't speak the same language of, if they had that basic feeling about themselves, if they thought, I can't learn a language, and here I have to, because it's an arranged marriage, it's for political reasons, I have to go and do it, and I won't be able to learn the language. So, spoiler, you can learn the language. That's definitely not a problem. One of the other reasons that I was really interested in the topic was because, being an American in Germany, I was asked, will you now stop speaking English to your kids now that you know they have dyslexia, because otherwise it's too hard for them? And that was something that I looked into a lot and found that there are plenty of people who are bilingual or multilingual and have dyslexia.
Well, that's awesome. And that's probably the best origin story I've heard. I've had a lot of these calls, and that's incredible. I think, and ultimately, the novel, your story, it's, while it might be fiction, there's some very real, raw elements to it, right, that are very applicable and relatable to a lot of people who, are neurodiverse or have dyslexia. So I think that's awesome.
Yes, I definitely tried to make it like that. One of the things that I did besides just research is I had two other authors who are multilingual and dyslexic read through it and kind of check my work. It was really important to me that it's as accurate as possible. With dyslexia, there are lots of different symptoms. I know my older son and my younger son experience it differently, so it won't fit, every person who reads it who has dyslexia. But I think, I really tried to get it to be as accurate as possible.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that. That's fantastic. Ultimately, what got you started writing for young adult audiences specifically?
Honestly, so I've always loved writing, even when I was really younger than a young adult. But I think that kind of my voice when I write is a younger voice, and I feel like maybe somewhere deep inside of me, there's just maybe still a teenager in there that has some of the teenage insecurities, but also the teenage dreams and hopes and things like that. And so when I write, I just feel like it feels more comfortable for me to write for young adults. I have written for adults before too. It's a little harder, I think, for me personally, but not that it's harder in general to write for adults. I just think it's kind of an inner voice thing, I guess I'd say.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, my next question is, what role does the idea of struggling to communicate sometimes play in the story?
So I don't want to say too much because it could be spoilery. But I will say that, I mean, sometimes it can be as small as being slower at reading or slower at finding the information she needs. Sometimes she could ask for something thinking she's got the right word and actually asked for the wrong thing. But there's at least one case where it could be deadly. So that's all I'll say about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Laura, for spending this time with me, taking the time out of your day to have a conversation. And I think, this conversation and the things your ambitions and the things you're working towards and stuff, ultimately will be such a massive resource and such a great help to people. And like I said earlier, I just love the relatability of even though they're fictional characters, there are things that there's elements in those stories that can resonate with a lot of people. So yeah, thank you so much.